In the quiet shadows of a galaxy that forgot its own origins, a single truth waits to be rediscovered. Empires have risen, species have ascended, and legends have turned to dust. But deep within the archives of the Galactic Council, one lecture will awaken a mystery 10,000 years in the making. The stars remember everything, even what humanity has forgotten. The lecture hall hung in stillness as the holographic display flickered to life, painting the curved walls with shifting amber light. David Reed sat near the back, pretending to be unimpressed. Humans were the newest addition to the Galactic Council, barely 3 months in, and everyone still treated them like curious children who'd wandered into a room meant for adults. Instructor Helmi unfolded her wings slightly, iridescent feathers glowing between shades of sapphire and jade. Her voice carried a musical rhythm that made even the driest topic sound like poetry. Today, she began, we explore what remains when civilizations fall silent, languages that no living mind can speak. The lecture was taking place inside the great archive station, a floating cathedral of memory. Around them, the walls shimmered with carved glyphs and projected constellations. Helmi gestured gracefully to the vault-like room. This is why we preserve everything, she said. Because empires vanish, cultures fade. But memory endures. David stole a glance at Olivia Grant seated beside him. His colleague, his closest friend. She was supposed to be focusing on the xenological implications of the lesson. Instead, her notebook was filled with sketches of the room's architecture. Typical Olivia, more fascinated by form than function. Then Helmi's tone shifted. Now I will show you our greatest puzzle. The hologram changed. Symbols emerged, etched characters glowing with soft, pulsating amber light. This script, Helmi continued, was found on 12 separate worlds along the outer spiral. The ruins date back nearly 10 millennia. Entire temples are covered in it, yet no species has been able to decipher even a single complete phrase. Across the hall, reptilian officials leaned forward. Insectoid students clicked their mandibles, recording every sound. Helma pointed at the glowing script. These markings may be numbers, these others perhaps navigation cues. But the rest? Her crest feathers sank slightly. The rest remains mute. David stared at the symbols. His chest tightened. The lines, the accent marks, the flow, they were too familiar. His pulse quickened. No. Impossible, Helmi continued, unaware of the storm brewing in the back row. The civilization responsible for this writing was highly advanced. They possessed interstellar travel, complex social systems, and architecture still unmatched today. Then, without warning, they vanished. No descendants. No genetic remains. Only ruins. David didn't realize he'd raised his hand until Olivia jabbed him with her elbow. What are you doing? She whispered. He couldn't answer. The realization burned in his mind like a flare. Helmi noticed him. Yes, David Reed of Earth, do you have a question? Every gaze in the room turned toward him. He stood slowly, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes. His voice trembled, but he spoke anyway. That language? It's Portuguese. A stunned silence fell. Even the ventilation hum seemed to fade. Helma blinked, feathers rippling in confusion. I beg your pardon? David swallowed hard. Portuguese. An ancient human language. I can read it. The hall erupted into chaos. Dozens of species began chattering in overlapping tongues. The reptilian Ken administrator's scales flashed red in alarm. Olivia grabbed David's arm. Tell me you're joking. Please tell me you're joking. He shook his head. That word there, Astrellis, it means stars. And that one, Jonatata, means journey. It says star journey. Helmi froze. That cannot be. These ruins predate human civilization by thousands of years. Your species had barely invented writing at that time. David's throat went dry. I know, but I can still read it. He pointed again. That phrase you marked as unknown, it says explorers. Pandemonium. Students rose, shouting. Administrators argued. Communication devices buzzed as the discovery spread through the station. Helmi raised a wing sharply. Silence. Her large eyes focused on David. Come forward, human. David obeyed, Olivia close behind him. His heart pounded so hard it blurred his vision. Helmi changed the hologram again, displaying a new wall of symbols. Translate this. Her voice quivered between authority and awe. David stepped closer. The characters floated before him, ethereal, ancient, waiting. He read softly at first, then louder. We came from the blue world, taken by those who walk in light. They gave us the stars, but the stars were never ours to keep. We build these words for those who follow. Remember us. Remember Earth. The final word echoed through the hall. Earth. Helm collapsed into her seat. Even the clicking insects fell silent. Olivia's hand trembled as she touched his shoulder. David, she whispered. That doesn't make sense. Earth didn't have starships 10,000 years ago. I know, he said quietly, staring at the glowing script. But somehow, they did. The room remained frozen in silence, every being in the hall realizing that history had just changed forever. As the last word, Earth, faded into silence, the archive lights dimmed. Somewhere deep in the station, security alerts began to flash. The council had been watching, and now, they wanted answers. The holographic display faded into darkness, leaving the lecture hall awash in silence. No one moved. No one even breathed. Then the spell broke. Voices erupted, sharp, overlapping, panicked. Every translator in the hall struggled to keep up. Helmi's feathers flared in alarm. Order, I demand order! But her voice barely rose above the chaos. The Ken administrator, a tall, scaled figure with deep crimson eyes, was already speaking rapidly into a communicator. David caught flashes of words. Human, unknown language, containment order. Olivia turned to him, pale. What did you just do, David? He couldn't answer. His mind was spinning, replaying those ancient words. We came from the blue world. Remember Earth. They weren't just random glyphs, they were a message from humanity's forgotten ancestors. Before he could speak, 2 council security officers entered the hall, gray-skinned and expressionless. The crowd parted instantly. David Reed. Olivia Grant, one of them said in perfect galactic standard. You are requested by the High Council for immediate audience. Helmi stepped forward quickly. They've done nothing wrong. This is an academic discovery, not a... The officer raised a hand. The council will decide that, instructor. David glanced at Olivia. She nodded grimly. Together they followed the guards out of the hall. The walk to the council chamber felt endless. The archive station's corridors curved and twisted like the inside of a living organism. Transparent panels revealed the void beyond, stars drifting like silent witnesses. Olivia broke the silence first. Do you realize what this means? I'm not sure I want to, David murmured. If that language really is Portuguese, then humans were traveling the stars 10,000 years ago. He stopped walking, which is impossible. Exactly. They continued in silence until the corridor widened into a vast circular atrium. The doors ahead shimmered with council insignia, 12 interlocking symbols representing the 12 founding species. The guards gestured for them to enter. The council chamber wasn't what David expected. No marble pillars. No regal thrones. Instead, it resembled an amphitheater built of light. Rings of seating spiraled around a central circle where the accused, or the honored, stood. Dozens of alien species filled the tiers, each surrounded by their unique communication patterns. Flashes, tones, bioluminescent pulses. At the center hovered Chancellor Bryn, a crystalline entity that pulsed with soft blue light. When Bryn spoke, the air itself seemed to hum. We have reviewed the preliminary report, the Chancellor said, the voice echoing through every translator. You claim to have deciphered the untranslatable. Explain yourself, human. David's throat tightened. His words came carefully, like stepping on fragile glass. The symbols shown in the lecture match an Earth language called Portuguese. I recognized words, grammar patterns, even idioms. It's not random. It's structured communication from an intelligent civilization. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Some skeptical, others fearful. Helmi stepped forward from the witness section. I can confirm his accuracy. He translated segments no one has understood in centuries. The syntax was perfect. Chancellor Bryn pulsed a brighter shade of blue. Instructor Helmi, are you suggesting this language originated on Earth? Yes, she said softly. Or at least shares its roots. Captain Rita Moss, the Federation's military liaison, rose from her seat. She was human, but her tone was all business. With respect, Chancellor, we should consider the possibility of forgery or external manipulation. Perhaps someone wants to rewrite history. A reptilian scholar hissed in reply. Impossible. The ruins' quantum decay rates confirm their age, 10,000 years minimum. Another voice, mechanical, cold, cut through the noise. Then humanity has been here before. Bryn raised a crystalline hand. Enough. The entire hall fell silent again. Turning toward David, the Chancellor said, "If what you claim is true, this changes the understanding of galactic origin theory. The Council cannot ignore it. You will read for us again." A hologram projected between them. New text, more complex, unfamiliar even to David. He hesitated, then read slowly. "The final ship leaves tomorrow. The lightfarers have turned away. Our machines grow silent. Our children forget the sky. We will return to the soil and the stars will forget our names." The room fell still, Olivia whispered. "It's a farewell." Helmi's voice trembled. "It matches the archaeological data perfectly. Lower ruins advanced, upper ruins primitive. It's as if they regressed." Bryn's light dimmed to a deep violet, a sign of contemplation. "This creates a paradox. The ruins date to 8 millennia before humanity's recorded history, and yet this text links them directly to Earth." Captain Moss stood again. "With respect, Chancellor, it could still be a hoax. Someone could have placed these ruins recently to manipulate." "No," interrupted the Ken scholar. "We have verified every atomic layer. These structures are ancient beyond fabrication." "Then how?" Moss demanded. "How could humans build temples on worlds they didn't even know existed?" David stepped forward. "May I see the next sequence?" Bryn nodded. The hologram changed, revealing a wall of dense script, hundreds of glowing glyphs. David's eyes moved across them, translating as he read. "They came as gods, beings of light and wisdom. They chose 20,000 of us. They lifted us into the sky, and the heavens became our home." The chamber went deathly quiet. Every species leaned forward, Olivia whispered. "They took humans into space." David looked up, voice heavy. "That's what it says." As his words faded, a low alarm echoed through the chamber. Council aides whispered urgently. A new transmission had just arrived, coordinates from the outer spiral. Another ruin had awakened. The sound that broke the silence wasn't loud, just a soft chime pulsing through the council chamber. But everyone heard it. Every head turned toward the communications alcove where a council aide stood, pale and shaking. "Chancellor Bryn," the aide said, voice trembling, "we're receiving a high-priority transmission from the Refuge system. One of the temples, it's active." The chamber erupted again. Voices collided, questions, disbelief, fear. Bryn's crystalline form flared with bright amber light, signaling command. "Silence. Bring the transmission through." A holographic feed appeared above the central dais. Static washed across it, then cleared to reveal the interior of a ruin, dark, metallic, and very much alive. Faint orange lights pulsed along its walls like a sleeping heart rediscovering its rhythm. A researcher's voice came through, fragmented by interference. "We don't know how, Chancellor. The site powered up less than an hour ago. Energy readings are astronomical. The inscriptions match those the human translated. Some of them are changing, rearranging themselves as if responding to." The feed cut to static again. When it returned, only one phrase remained flickering on the lower corner of the hologram, written in glowing text. "The ones who remember have returned." Gasps filled the chamber. Helmi's feathers rippled with shock. "It's reacting to the translation." To him, Bryn's light dimmed. "David Reed, your actions have awakened something we do not yet understand. You and Olivia Grant will be escorted to council quarters while we investigate." David took a breath. "You're locking us up." "For your protection," Bryn replied. "And for the galaxies." The guest quarters turned out to be a high-security containment suite, luxurious but sealed tight. Olivia paced the room like a caged comet. "Protection, huh? More like a velvet-lined prison." David sat near the viewport, eyes lost in the starlight. "They're scared. Of what? Words?" He turned toward her. "No, of what those words mean. If humans were taken, if those ruins are truly ours, it rewrites everything the Council believes about galactic history." A low hum filled the room as the lights dimmed for night cycle. Outside, the stars hung motionless, unaware of the chaos their light had caused. Hours later, a faint metallic sound interrupted the silence. Something slid beneath their door, a small data chip glinting faintly in the low light. David picked it up, turning it over in his hands. A single message pulsed across its surface. Go to Refuge, Temple Alpha. The truth must not be buried. T, he stared at the initials. T, who sent that? Olivia asked. Maybe someone on the research team. Maybe someone who believes us. He loaded the chip into his personal tablet. Coordinates appeared. Planet Refuge, Western Continent, Temple Complex Alpha. The truth must not be buried, David whispered. Then he looked at Olivia. We're getting out. Escape from a council station wasn't easy, but it wasn't impossible either. Not with a few favors owed and a genius for old systems. The chip contained more than coordinates, it held door codes. Someone had gone to great risk to help them. By the time the next shift rotation began, David and Olivia were already in disguise, maintenance uniforms, false credentials, and a shared determination that drowned out fear. They moved through crowded corridors, avoiding cameras, following the encoded route. Olivia whispered, If we get caught, we won't, David cut in. Not before we find out the truth. They reached the cargo bay. The scent of metal, oil, and ozone filled the air. Freighters lined the dock, some pristine, others barely holding together. That one, Olivia pointed, a battered ship, its name half faded on the hull. The Wayfarer. Records on the datapad identified its captain, Sam Porter. Freelance pilot, occasionally smuggler, always trouble. As they approached, a thin man with gray hair and suspicion in his eyes stepped down the ramp. His hand lingered near his belt, probably a weapon. Dock's closed, he said. Come back when you've got a cargo manifest. David didn't flinch. We have one refuge system. Western Continent. Porter studied them for a long moment. You're the humans the Council's hunting, aren't you? Olivia froze. Relax, Porter said, smirking. The whole station knows your faces. Big reward, too. I could turn you in and retire early. David met his gaze. Or you could hear our offer. We can pay you. Pay me? With what? Knowledge, David replied quietly. The location of 12 ruins older than any known civilization, and the language that unlocks them. The smuggler's expression hardened, then softened into curiosity. You're serious. Completely. Porter looked around the hangar, then jerked his head toward the ramp. Get aboard before the next scan cycle. You've got 5 minutes. They climbed the ramp fast. Inside, the Wayfarer felt like a patchwork museum of 1,000 stolen parts. The hum of its engines echoed like a heartbeat. A multi-limbed mechanic looked up from an open panel, her compound eyes glinting. Who are these two? She asked. Passengers, Porter said. The kind we don't write down. The mechanic clicked her mandibles. Humans, wanted ones. I'll need hazard pay. You'll get double, Porter said, if we live. He turned back to David and Olivia. Strap in. The moment I lift off, this ship disappears from Council radar. If you're lying, I'll space you myself. David nodded. Fair deal. Moments later, the Wayfarer roared to life. Dock clamps disengaged, engines flared, and the stars twisted as they plunged into faster than light. The archive station vanished behind them, along with every safety they'd ever known. As the ship streaked through hyperspace, the data chip on David's wrist console pulsed again, new lines of glowing text forming words he hadn't seen before. Not all who were taken were lost. The Wayfarer cut through hyperspace like a ghost slipping between stars. The hum of its engines filled the narrow corridors, steady and alive, like a heartbeat that belonged to the ship itself. David sat strapped in a corner seat, watching the endless cascade of light streaks beyond the viewport. Beside him, Olivia's fingers danced over her wrist display, checking the coordinates from the mysterious data chip for the 10th time. Still the same, she murmured. Refuge, Western Continent. Temple Complex Alpha. David nodded absently. Whoever sent that chip knew exactly where we needed to go. Or where they want us to go, Olivia countered, her eyes narrowing. There's a difference. A voice crackled through the intercom. We'll drop from hyperspace in 2 weeks, Captain Porter said. Keep out of sight. The Council's broadcasted your names on every major frequency. You're celebrities now, wanted ones, Olivia sighed. Great. Galactic fame. Later, when the engine settled into cruise rhythm, David wandered into the main cabin. The space was cluttered, tools, wires, half-eaten ration packs, but it felt lived in. A tall man sat near the viewport reading from a tablet. He looked up and smiled. Dr. David Reed, right? I'm Wesley Hunt, historian. I've been studying those ruins since before the council classified them. David blinked. You're a historian on a smuggler's ship? Wesley chuckled. Let's say academia doesn't always pay the docking fees. When I heard you translated the unknown script, I called in a few favors to find you. Olivia entered behind David. You mean you expected us to run? Everyone did, Wesley replied. No one expected the council to let two humans walk free after a discovery like that. I figured you'd need transport. Porter's voice boomed from the cockpit. Less talking, more sitting. The scanners just pinged a patrol 3 sectors ahead. They exchanged glances and hurried to their seats. Days slipped by in the dim light of the ship. The stars outside blurred, then froze again as they navigated through dense regions of subspace. During quiet hours, Wesley and David pored over the data chip. It wasn't just coordinates, there were images, scanned inscriptions, and partial translations. Some lines repeated across multiple ruins. Those who cannot remember will return to dust. What we built was never truly ours. We are the bridge between light and soil. Every phrase deepened the mystery. Olivia leaned over David's shoulder as he studied one inscription shaped like a warning sign. That one, what does it say? He traced the faint letters with his finger. Turn back those who cannot understand. What lies within will break your heart. Her brow furrowed. Poetic, terrifying, both. Wesley leaned back, thoughtful. It fits with old Earth myths, Atlantis, Mu, the golden ages that vanished. Maybe those legends were memories from the ones who came back. You think survivors return to Earth? David asked. It's possible, Wesley said. A civilization that collapses doesn't always disappear. It hides in the ruins of its own mistakes. For a moment, silence filled the cabin. Then Nara, the insectoid engineer, entered carrying a wrench and grease-streaked datapad. My people have legends too, she said quietly. Of beings who came before anyone else, who walked between stars and then vanished. We called them the first travelers, maybe. They were human. David looked up at her. Maybe they were. On the 10th day, the alert klaxon blared. Porter's voice came through fast. Council patrol ship on intercept vector. Claiming routine inspection. Olivia's heart raced. They'll scan for life forms. Not if my modifications work, Porter replied. Hide now. David and Olivia squeezed into narrow compartments behind false panels. Metal pressed cold against their backs as footsteps echoed outside. They listened. Voices murmured in alien tones. Equipment clanked. One pause lasted too long, someone standing directly beside David's hiding place. He stopped breathing. Then footsteps retreated. A low hum signaled the patrol's departure. The panel slid open. Porter's face appeared, smirking. See? Easy, David crawled out, stiff and shaking. That was your idea of easy? Porter shrugged. If you can't handle a little tension, you shouldn't be uncovering galactic secrets. Hours later, when comm returned, David found Porter in the cockpit, steering through a silent sea of stars. Why help us? David asked. You could have turned us in. Made a fortune. Porter stared straight ahead. My grandfather was a historian too. He used to say the worst crime wasn't ignorance, it was choosing to stay ignorant. I guess I inherited that problem. A small smile tugged at David's lips. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Porter said. You haven't seen Refuge. That place gives me chills. 4 days later, the Wayfarer dropped out of hyperspace. A world filled the viewport. Blue oceans, swirling clouds, green continents. A world that looked hauntingly like Earth. Refuge, Porter said. Coordinates locked. Nara scanned the readings. 2 research ships in orbit. 3 ground bases. Heavy surveillance. Can we land unseen? Wesley asked. Maybe, Porter replied, his fingers flying across the controls. We'll ride the planet's magnetic field. It'll fry their sensors for a few minutes. The ship dove through clouds painted gold by the planet's sun. Lightning flickered as they cut through turbulence. When they emerged, the view stole their breath. Below them stretched forests tinted violet, grasslands that shimmered gold in the wind, and in the distance the ruins. Towering structures half buried and covered in vines, yet unmistakably artificial. Porter landed the Wayfarer in a clearing just beyond the tree line. Engines powered down. Silence settled, broken only by the whisper of alien wind. They stood at the top of the ramp, staring across the fields at the temple complex. 10,000 years. Wesley murmured. And they're still waiting. David stepped down onto the soil, heart pounding. Then let's finally listen to what they've been waiting to say. As they approached the first temple, faint lines of amber light rippled across its surface, like veins waking beneath stone. Something inside the ruins had sensed them, and it was no longer asleep. The air around the ruins shimmered faintly as if the atmosphere itself remembered what had once lived there. David, Olivia, Wesley, and Porter stepped carefully across ground that hadn't felt human footsteps in 10,000 years. Every motion stirred dust that seemed older than memory. The temple complex loomed ahead, vast towers of stone-like metal half swallowed by vines of violet and gold. Though ancient, the structures radiated a quiet defiance as though they had been waiting, patient and unyielding for this moment. Olivia brushed her fingers across a nearby column. The surface was cold and unnaturally smooth. "This isn't stone," she murmured. "It's alloy," David nodded. "Disguised to look primitive. Whoever built this wanted others to think they'd fallen." Wesley adjusted his scanner, eyes widening. Energy readings off the charts. Something inside is still active. A gentle hum rolled through the air. The inscriptions along the outer wall began to glow in slow waves, one symbol after another lighting up like an awakening heartbeat. Porter stepped back, hand drifting toward his holstered weapon. "Tell me that's not about to explode." David's pulse quickened. "No, it's responding to us." They reached what appeared to be the entrance, a seamless wall etched with thousands of interwoven symbols. David stepped closer, tracing the letters with trembling fingers. "It's Portuguese again," he whispered, "but different, older, rougher. It says we hide what we cannot keep. We disguise what we cannot protect. Let those who find us think we are gone until the one who remembers returns." Olivia swallowed. "Then it's waiting for you." David exhaled slowly, then pressed his palm against the center of the wall. The text pulsed under his hand. The word Esperanza, hope, flashed once. The wall split open soundlessly. A rush of cold air spilled out, carrying with it the faint scent of ozone and metal long sealed from the world. Lights flickered on one by one inside the dark corridor, revealing an interior far too advanced for the age of the ruins. Porter gave a low whistle. 10,000 years old and the lights still work. Whoever built this was better at maintenance than we are. They stepped inside. The interior stretched upward like the rib cage of some sleeping giant. Walls lined with flowing script, intricate carvings and glowing panels told a story too vast to read all at once. "This isn't a temple," Wesley said softly. "It's a library." David approached one of the walls, his voice echoing faintly. "Listen to this." He began translating aloud. "My name is Pedro. I was taken from my village at 15 summers. The ones of light came in the night. They showed us visions of the stars and said we would join them among the heavens." Olivia stepped closer, her eyes glimmering in the light. "He's telling their story, the first taken." The corridor led them into a circular chamber. In the center stood a tall, cylindrical device humming with faint light. Its surface shimmered with complex patterns like circuitry and writing woven together. Nara, the insectoid engineer, moved toward it instinctively. "The power source is quantum-based, self-sustaining. It shouldn't even be running, but it is." Wesley circled the structure. "It's beautiful. Almost like..." He hesitated. "It's alive." David scanned the surrounding text and read aloud once more. "This is the memory keeper. To those who come after, touch its heart and learn what we could not save." The others exchanged glances. Olivia whispered, "If it's been waiting for someone to activate it." David stepped forward. "Then it's time." He placed his hand against the central panel. Light surged through the room, flooding every wall. The air vibrated with a sound that was not sound, a hum that felt like thought itself. David's body stiffened. His eyes went distant. "David," Olivia cried, but he didn't hear her. Darkness swallowed his vision, and then light. He was standing on a beach beneath a familiar yellow sun. The waves lapped gently at the sand, and simple huts stood in the distance. Humans, primitive but alive, fished and gathered, unaware of the impossible future that awaited them. A voice filled his mind. "I am the echo, the last memory of those who came before. You have awakened me." Images flickered like lightning, beings of light descending from the sky. Humans taken from Earth's surface carried into the stars. Cities blooming on alien worlds. Children born beneath unfamiliar suns. The voice continued, calm yet filled with sorrow. They took you to preserve you. They feared your extinction, but they erred. David saw the beings, the Herani, beautiful, luminous creatures who walked among humans like gods. For 2,000 years they guided the colonists, teaching them to build, to farm, to travel between stars. And then, one day, they vanished. Ships powered down. Machines rusted. The humans left behind could no longer maintain what they'd been given. The stars that had once been home became unreachable. We built these words, the echo said, so that someday you would know, so that our failure would not be your ignorance. The light shattered. David gasped as reality returned. He stumbled back, nearly falling. Olivia caught him. "David, what happened?" He looked at her, his face pale but eyes blazing with awe. "I saw them. The Herani, the ones who took us, and why they left." Before he could explain further, Porter shouted from the entrance. "Company. Council ships coming in hot." Through the doorway, the sky burned with descending transport lights. Soldiers fanned out, surrounding the site. Olivia's voice trembled. "They found us." David turned to the glowing memory keeper, its light still pulsing softly. "They can't bury this," he whispered. "Not again." As the council soldiers closed in, the memory keeper's light flared, projecting waves of data into the air. Across every channel, every frequency and orbit, the truth began to spread. The past was awake and nothing could stop it now. The sky above the temple burned with blue engine trails as council transports descended like falling stars. Dust rolled across the plains, swirling around the ancient ruins. Inside, the memory keeper pulsed brighter than ever before. Its light flickered across David's face, painting him in hues of gold and white. He stood still, hand pressed against the device, while the others watched in tense silence. "David," Olivia said softly. "They're here. We need to move." He didn't look at her. "No, if we run now, they'll bury this again." Wesley's scanner beeped frantically. "Whatever this thing's doing, it's building energy. Massive output." Porter cursed under his breath. "If it explodes, we're vapor." "It won't," David said, his voice steady, distant. "It's trying to speak." Outside, soldiers fanned across the ruins, weapons drawn. Amplified voices echoed through the corridors. "Dr. David Reed, Olivia Grant, by order of the Galactic Council, you are to surrender immediately." Olivia's pulse quickened. "They'll be inside in minutes." David turned to the glowing pillar. "Then they'll hear the truth too." He closed his eyes and whispered, "Show them." The memory keeper responded instantly. Its hum deepened, resonating through the walls like a heartbeat magnified across dimensions. Light exploded outward, spilling through cracks in the temple and into the open sky. From orbit to ground level, communication systems across the entire system lit up, civilian, military, academic, all at once. The echo's voice, the same voice that had spoken inside David's mind, now filled every channel. "This is the record of humanity's first awakening among the stars. 10,000 years ago, 20,000 of your ancestors were taken from Earth by the beings known as the Herani. They were not gods, but travelers who feared your extinction. They sought to preserve you, but they made a terrible mistake." The soldiers stopped in their tracks. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Inside the temple, Olivia stared upward as the air shimmered with holographic visions, scenes of ancient humans building colonies beneath alien suns. Ships of light soaring between worlds, laughter, life, hope. Then the tone darkened. The Herani left without warning. Their knowledge faded from our grasp. Our machines died. Our cities fell silent, but we did not vanish. We endured. We built these temples as our memory, our message to those who would come after. The chamber walls glowed brighter, displaying faces of long-forgotten colonists, children smiling beside alien trees, explorers carving words into metal walls. "We were human," the voice said. "We came from Earth, and we tried." Outside, the lead officer, a towering armored figure named Commander Yorn, lowered his weapon, mesmerized by the light streaming from the temple. His comlink erupted with overlapping voices. "Command, we're receiving. Broadcast hitting every network. Can't shut it down." Yorn barked, "Contain that site." But even he sounded uncertain. The light intensified. A wave of raw data burst from the memory keeper, flooding every terminal and datapad within range. The galaxy was seeing it now, the entire history of the ancient human colonies. Porter shielded his eyes. What the hell is this thing doing? David's voice trembled as he spoke. It's setting them free. Their story. Their truth. Olivia reached for his arm. You can't control it. I don't have to. He looked at her, a calm resolve in his eyes. The truth doesn't need permission. The memory keeper's voice echoed one last time, its tone softer, almost human. Those who hid the truth feared chaos. But knowledge cannot destroy what ignorance already has. You are the children of those who endured the silence. Remember them. Learn from them. Rise again. The light shot upward, forming a massive column visible from orbit. It radiated out like a pulse of living energy, transmitting data across every council frequency. In a matter of minutes, billions of beings throughout the galaxy were watching. The feed reached council headquarters, civilian stations, trade fleets, universities, everywhere. Screens filled with the same message. Remember Earth, remember the first ones. Back in the temple, the light began to fade. The memory keeper dimmed slowly until only a faint hum remained. The silence that followed was deafening. Commander Yorn entered cautiously, weapon lowered. What did you do? David turned, exhausted but unbroken. We told the truth. Yorn's visor reflected the dying glow of the device. You've ignited half the galaxy into panic. Do you have any idea what that means? Yes, David said. It means the lie is over. Yorn hesitated, then lowered his weapon completely. You should have let the council handle this quietly. David shook his head. History doesn't belong to councils. It belongs to everyone. The commander's comlink crackled again. Panic from orbit, conflicting orders, political chaos. He sighed heavily. Then may the stars help us all. As the soldiers began retreating, David touched the memory keeper one last time. Its faint glow pulsed like a heartbeat beneath his fingers. Olivia stepped beside him. It's over. He looked up toward the night sky where faint trails of light still lingered from the transmission. No, he said quietly. It's just beginning. 3 days later, chaos reigned across the council worlds. Protests, debates, fear, and somewhere deep in a hidden archive, an ancient signal began to stir again. The Herani had heard the transmission. 3 days after the transmission, the galaxy was no longer silent. What began as a ripple of disbelief had become a storm. Every news network, every council feed, every street corner in every world buzzed with the same question. How could humans have been here before? Some called it revelation. Others called it blasphemy. Entire civilizations halted to debate it. On council worlds, protests filled the plazas. Beings of 100 species shouting, glowing, chirping, and flashing in outrage or awe. At the heart of it all, David Reed's name had become both anthem and curse. He sat in a sterile council holding chamber, its walls alive with soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The window above revealed Refuge, the planet where everything had begun. Olivia paced behind him, agitation in her every step. Half the galaxy thinks we're heroes, she muttered. The other half thinks we're liars or destabilizers. Congratulations, David, you've managed to divide the stars. David didn't respond. His gaze remained fixed on the world below. The ruins glimmered faintly in orbit's reflection, still pulsing with the memory keeper's residual glow. The door hissed open. A group entered, led by President Sarah Kim of the Human Federation. Her silver hair was tied back, her eyes sharp, calculating. Behind her walked Ambassador Lucas Bell, carrying a datapad that overflowed with holographic alerts. Dr. Reed, Kim began, voice calm but edged. Do you have any idea what kind of diplomatic firestorm you've set off? I didn't start it, David replied quietly. I just stopped it from being buried. Kim sighed. You revealed classified archaeological data to the entire galaxy. 3 alliances have suspended trade. 2 member species are questioning our Federation's legitimacy. Do you realize that some worlds are calling for Earth's removal from the Council entirely? Olivia crossed her arms. Maybe they should be asking why the Council hid this in the first place. Ambassador Bell frowned. This isn't about ethics, Ms. Grant, it's about survival. You've cracked the foundation of interstellar trust. Wesley entered moments later, escorted by security. They can't unsee the truth, he said firmly. History doesn't vanish just because it makes people uncomfortable. Kim pinched the bridge of her nose. Comfort isn't the issue, Doctor. Stability is. Before anyone could respond, the lights flickered. The room dimmed. The air thickened with static. Bell's datapad beeped violently. Incoming transmission, encrypted, unknown origin. The holographic screen flickered to life. At first, there was only darkness, then a burst of pale light shaped like a figure. Gasps filled the room. The being was tall, almost humanoid, but radiant, its form shifting like liquid glass. Eyes that weren't eyes glowed softly from within. The voice that followed was melodic, ancient, and impossibly calm. I am Dren of the Herani. I come in peace. Kim rose from her chair, stunned. That's impossible. The Herani have been extinct for 10,000 years. The being bowed slightly. Extinction is a word the living give to the forgotten. My people chose silence. We watched from afar, hidden among the stars, ashamed of what we had done. David's breath caught. You've been watching us. All this time? Dren turned his luminous gaze toward him. Yes, we saw the signal from Refuge. We felt the memory keeper's awakening. And we knew. Humanity had returned to the stars on its own. The room fell into stunned silence. Wesley stepped forward, voice trembling. Why did you leave them? Those people, the ones you took, why did you abandon them? Dren's expression flickered like a candle in a wind. Because we believed we had sinned. Our purpose was preservation, not domination. But when we learned our prophecy was wrong, that Earth would not die, we were consumed by guilt. We withdrew and let our creation fall. Olivia's voice hardened. You call that guilt? You doomed them. Yes, Dren said softly. And it has haunted us ever since. Kim found her voice. How many of you are left? Few, Dren answered. We were never many, and the centuries have not been kind. We hid among your kind, disguising ourselves through technology and silence. There are perhaps 500 of us remaining, scattered across the galaxy. David stepped closer to the hologram. Then why come forward now? Dren's light dimmed as if the being carried centuries of sorrow. Because truth cannot heal if it remains hidden. You have done what we could not. You faced your past without fear. It is time we do the same. Kim glanced at Bell, then back to the Herani. And what is it you want from us? Not want, Dren corrected gently. Offer. We wish to give back what we took. Your heritage, your technology, your history. The archives of the colonies still exist. We will share them. Wesley's eyes widened. You mean the full records? The genetic data, the star maps? All of it, Dren said. So that you may find those who survived and rebuild what was lost. David stared at the hologram, heart pounding. You mean there could still be descendants? Dren's light flickered brighter. Yes, some colonies endured longer than others. You are not the only children of Earth. As Dren's image faded, the chamber fell into stunned silence. Somewhere in the background, a council aide whispered the words that would change everything. A new signal has just been detected. From the edge of the Orion Reach. It's human. The council chamber fell into a stunned silence after Dren's transmission faded. Every being in the room, human or alien, sat motionless, the weight of 10,000 years pressing down on them. Then a soft alarm broke the quiet. An aide rushed forward, eyes wide. Madam President, we've just detected a new transmission. Origin point, Orion Reach, Outer Rim Sector. Ambassador Bell frowned. Another Herani signal? The aide shook their head. No, sir. The signature is human. The room erupted. Questions. Shouts. Shock. Kim slammed her hand on the table. Silence! The chaos froze instantly. Put it on screen. The holographic feed flickered, struggling to stabilize across millions of light years. Then a face appeared, grainy, sunlit, and unmistakably human. A young woman, dark-haired and dirt-streaked, wearing simple woven fabric instead of a uniform. Behind her, a sky of violet clouds stretched over golden plains. This is Patra of Haven Colony, the voice said. We received your message. We heard the words of the ancestors. We remember, Olivia gasped. She speaks Portuguese. Wesley's scanner confirmed it, voice trembling with disbelief. It's an evolved dialect, but the roots are there. She's one of them. She's a descendant. On screen, Patra continued. We always thought our stories were myths. The Skygivers, the ones who took our first mothers and fathers. The elders said one day the stars would speak again and we should listen. Tears filled Olivia's eyes. They've been waiting all this time. We are few, Patra said. But we remember our language. We remember Terra Azul, the blue world. Tell the ones who came after. We are ready to return home. The transmission cut out. The silence that followed was absolute. David rose slowly, his heart pounding. She called Earth Terra Azul. The name survived 10 millennia. Kim exhaled shakily. Then Dren was right. Some of them made it. Wesley turned to her. Madam President, we have to mount an expedition. If Haven still exists, there could be thousands, maybe tens of thousands of descendants. Bell frowned. We don't even know where Haven is located precisely. The Orion Reach is uncharted and unstable. That region's barely navigable. David met his gaze. We found 12 colonies once. We can find one more. Within hours, plans were in motion. The Council authorized a joint task force, half-human, half-alien scholars. The Wayfarer was refitted and equipped with a new translite core, escorted by 2 Council survey ships. At the launch bay, the hum of engines filled the air. Olivia stood beside David, tightening the strap of her pack. Feels like déjà vu. Only different, David said with a faint smile, is this time the galaxy's watching. Helme appeared beside them, her iridescent feathers glinting in the dock's light. Be careful, she said gently. The past rarely reveals itself without a price. Wesley joined them, carrying several data slates. If this works, we'll be the first to contact a lost human colony in 10,000 years. Porter leaned out from the ramp of the Wayfarer. And if it doesn't, we'll be the first ones to disappear trying. Either way, we're making history, David smirked. You always know how to inspire confidence, Captain. Hours later, the Wayfarer leapt into hyperspace. The stars stretched into luminous rivers as the ship cut through subspace currents. Inside, the crew worked quietly, tension hanging like static. Nara monitored the engine core. Jump coordinates stable. Estimated arrival in 16 hours. Olivia stared at the viewport, watching the stars bend. Can you imagine it? People, humans, living all this time thinking they were alone. David nodded slowly. And now they'll learn the truth, that their myths were real. He paused, thoughtful. Or maybe they already knew. 16 hours later, hyperspace peeled away, and Haven appeared before them. A planet of sapphire oceans and sprawling golden continents filled the viewport. Scattered energy readings dotted the surface, faint but unmistakably technological. Multiple settlements, Nara said. Atmosphere is breathable. No major defenses, Porter whistled softly. Looks like paradise. David leaned forward. Take us down. The Wayfarer descended through a canopy of violet clouds. Below, the crew saw farmlands, rivers, and massive stone structures carved with ancient Portuguese words. When they landed, a small crowd gathered, men, women, and children with bronze skin and sharp eyes, wearing woven robes marked with star-shaped emblems. At their head stood Patra, the woman from the transmission. David stepped forward slowly. We're from Earth, he said, his translator flickering to match her dialect. The blue world, Patra's eyes widened. She whispered in disbelief. Terra Azul. Then she smiled through tears. We knew you'd come. The sky told us, Olivia's throat tightened. They remembered everything. Patra gestured toward the horizon, where a towering spire rose from the plains, metallic and ancient, half buried but glowing faintly. The sky givers left something for us there, she said. A beacon. We've never opened it. It waits for the ones who could read the stars. David's gaze hardened. Then let's see what it's been waiting to say. As they approached the towering spire, the sky darkened. Symbols along its surface began to glow. Not in Portuguese this time, but in Herani script. And above them, in orbit, something enormous stirred. A vessel of light, waking after 10,000 years. The golden plains of Haven shimmered under a violet sky as the Wayfarer's crew followed Patra toward the towering spire. The structure loomed in the distance, monolithic, metallic, and humming faintly like something alive. Its surface reflected fragments of sunlight, revealing faint inscriptions that pulsed in patterns too deliberate to be random. It's beautiful, Olivia whispered. And ancient, Wesley added. Older than any known colony structure. Look at the metal composition. Same alloy as the temples on Refuge. David's gaze locked on the shifting symbols crawling across its surface. Except these aren't Portuguese. Nara adjusted her scanning lens. Confirmed. Script alignment matches Herani design architecture. Porter grunted. Meaning? Meaning, David said quietly. This isn't just a human structure. It's Herani built, maybe one of their last creations. Patra looked between them, frowning. The Skygivers built it before they vanished. The elders say it's their last gift, but no one has ever been able to open it. David stepped closer, running his fingers across the glyphs. They shifted and rippled under his touch, responding to his presence. The markings began to rearrange themselves, merging Portuguese letters with Herani symbols into something new, something hybrid. Olivia's eyes widened. It's blending both languages, David nodded. It's reading me. The air vibrated with a deep resonance. Lines of light crawled outward from the spire, forming a circular pattern across the ground, an activation glyph. Everybody back. Porter barked, pulling Patra and her people away. But David didn't move. The glow beneath his feet spread like liquid fire, racing up the spire's body until the entire structure erupted in cascading light. A beam shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. Alarms blared aboard the Wayfarer. Nara shouted from the comms, "Energy surge, planet-wide. It's broadcasting something." Wesley stared at the display on his wrist. "Coordinates. It's transmitting coordinates into deep space." Olivia's voice trembled. "To where?" Before anyone could answer, the sky itself began to change. A shape emerged from the upper atmosphere, massive, luminous, and impossibly graceful. A vessel made entirely of light and crystal descended through the clouds. Patra fell to her knees. "The Skygivers." Porter's jaw dropped. "You've got to be kidding me." The ship settled above the plains, its underside reflecting golden radiance across the land. The spire's beam linked directly into its hull like a bridge of pure energy. David shielded his eyes. "It's responding to the beacon. The Herani ship, it's been dormant here all along." Olivia turned to Dren's holographic relay device in her hand. "We have to contact him." Before she could activate it, the beam from the ship shifted, splitting into 3 arcs of light that touched the ground around them. Within each arc, a form began to take shape. 3 beings stepped forward, tall, luminous, and serene. Their bodies were translucent, their movements weightless. They radiated warmth and sorrow in equal measure. Dren's voice echoed faintly through the comms. "You have awakened the Sanctum vessel, the last ship we built before the fall. The ones you see are echoes of my kind, stored within the ship's memory." The central being spoke, not through sound, but directly into their minds. "Children of Earth, you have found what was lost." David's voice shook. "Why now? Why reveal yourselves after so long?" "Because," the being replied, "your kind has remembered what we once forgot. Compassion beyond power, curiosity without conquest. You are ready to reclaim what we withheld." Olivia took a step forward. "Reclaim what?" "Your heritage," the being said, "and your choice." A section of the spire opened, revealing a chamber filled with glowing orbs, each pulsing softly like hearts. "These are the seeds of light," the Herani explained. "Knowledge preserved from our civilization and from yours. Together they can rebuild the bridges between worlds, but they can also reshape destiny. Once awakened, they cannot be undone." David stared at the chamber, torn between awe and fear. "If we activate them, what happens?" The being's light dimmed slightly as if in sorrow. "Then humanity will ascend once more. Or fall, as we did." The Herani projections began to fade, their forms dissipating like mist. "The choice is yours," the voice whispered. "Use the seeds wisely, or not at all. The future belongs to you now." The light receded back into the spire. Silence fell again. Wesley broke it first. "We just got handed the keys to an ancient empire." Porter folded his arms. "Or to the next extinction." David turned to Patra. "Your people kept this secret for generations." She nodded solemnly. "Because we were told the stars test those who chase them. Maybe now we'll see why." That night, beneath Haven's twin moons, the Wayfarer's crew debated what to do. The seeds of light glowed softly inside the open chamber, 12 orbs of pure data, pulsing like living stars. Olivia looked at David. "If we take them, the Council will demand control. They'll weaponize them. And if we don't," Wesley added, "someone else will find them eventually." Porter leaned back. "So what's the plan, Professor?" David stared into the glow, seeing reflections of every civilization that had risen and fallen before. "I don't know yet," he said quietly. "But whatever we do, it has to be different this time." Far above Haven, the dormant Herani vessel pulsed with faint light again. Deep within its core, ancient systems reactivated and a voice spoke in the dark, one that hadn't been heard in 10,000 years. Protocol Genesis. Preparing for return.